everybody. Welcome back to Cosmic Chats. Today we have a fabulous person. I'm so excited. We have the one and only Marshallkosloff. Is that correctly pronounced?
That is correctly pronounced.
Oh, I'm on a good roll. So we just quit while I'm ahead. Today, he is going to be chatting with us. He has two fabulous podcasts that are just out of control. I know he's got a million more in him. One is the Realignment. And no, he's not a chiropractor. He can't help you about that. It's a completely different issue altogether. And the second one is the Deep End, correct?
Correct.
And that came from a group called On Deck. And if you are On Deck people tuning in, hey, I'm going to look you up in the directory. Okay, so let's get with the first question. How would you describe the taste of a banana to someone who's never eaten one?
I think I'd start with the texture of it, because a banana's, it's a really good question. I'd say a banana, it's not really, it's a fruit. Imagine something fruity, but it isn't that flavorful. And I could not think of a more difficult fruit to describe. I would say that it is a light flavor. It's not too intense, especially if it's not overripe. And it's chewy. It's kind of like, what is it kind of like? Kind of reminds you of peanut butter, but I'm just thinking of eating bananas with peanut butter. So that's the best I can do for you.
It's like it's pretty indigestible banana and peanut butter sandwiches.
Yeah.
Have you had one?
I have had a peanut butter. Yeah, I've had it. Not a huge fan. So it's just funny that I don't even know why I even went to that, because I'm not actually a huge fan of that. But yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely part of it. It sticks to the top of your mouth, and it's not a fun thing to eat.
It's really hard to digest. I know people are like, oh, what's the problem? What did you eat? They actually went to a doctor, and the doctor's like, that's pretty indigestible with white bread. So do you actually like bananas?
I do. It's funny because it's never a fruit that I've gone and said, hey, I want to go get a banana because that tastes really good. I think it's the perfect supplement fruit. So you add it to cereal. You don't add it to a sandwich. We were just talking about that, but you add it to most things, and it's really good. So you have it with, I love it with cereal. I actually like banana pancakes too. So you just take an egg and you take a banana, you mash it together, and you cook it like a pancake, and it tastes really good. But the key thing is that bananas with other things, I could just never imagine just saying, hey, I'm really hungry, I'm gonna go out and get a banana from the store or something.
That's a good little sort of snack to keep you going, right? It's very easy to hold.
Mm-hmm.
Banana phone,
yeah. I was thinking phone when you did that. Yeah,
right. Banana phone. Yes. Everyone has a different answer, but texture is usually a big one when it comes to the banana question. So my next thought is, everybody like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you haven't, Marshall's going to tell you right now to do that.
Everyone needs to like and subscribe. It's YouTube. I've just got it started on YouTube myself, and it is so cool watching the number go up. So make both of our days and have the numbers go up, especially you On Deck people who are watching. You know the deal. Like and subscribe will do it back.
That's right. And then put in a note or send me an email saying who you are exactly. And I want to tell you and take this moment, I appreciate all your comments that you've made about bananas. Those of you who love them, those of you who are appalled, you can always fast forward to the next question. Life is simple. Next question. When did you have your first existential life crisis as a child?
Maybe this is me having a relatively privileged background, but I'm not sure I had an existential life crisis. I'd say, if anything, the critique you can make of my childhood is like it's kind of like booped about moving forward without any crisis intervention time. I think the other way that I think about it is that I've had backwards faces isn't the right way to put it, but I've looked back, and upon reflection, I thought, wow, that was a lot, or that was something that could have been big and you could have really thought about. So no, I didn't have anything like that. And I think that's interesting for me because a lot of that reflects, I don't think I had the awareness, not to use the show name in the statement this early, but I'm not sure I was aware of myself deeply as a child. And I think having an existential crisis, the existential was the key part of it. You're thinking deeply about you and your place and your life, the universe, anything like that. I just didn't have that. I just didn't have that happen.
Was there any moment where you thought, something doesn't seem to add up right?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that happened not during childhood, but immediately after, when I first went to college. I was a very tracked person, especially given what I just said about just moving forward throughout childhood. I had a plan, I knew what I was doing, and I woke up freshman year of college just thinking that I wasn't happy with that track. And it wasn't happening on a deeper level. I don't think I was doing this particularly intelligently, but I'm not going to replicate the noise you did. But I think that noise is just such a, if audience, think back to what you just heard, because it was much better than anything I would do. Yeah, exactly. That is the perfect way of describing how I really felt in 2011. I didn't quite know what to do with that, but I just knew, but I wasn't happy where I was. But so yeah, it was never, but that wasn't existential. It was just, oh, like the script or the track that I was on wasn't working. And that was really, really, upon reflection, like a really important point for me.
And so as a result, your perception changed.
Interesting. I don't think it's that my perception changed. It's that I got off of the track that I was on, and I honestly struggled, because if my perception itself had changed, I think that would have actually made things much easier. But all I actually did was think to myself, I don't like what I'm doing. I'm going to stop doing that, or I'm going to change it, without, I think, going to the deeper level and asking the question of perception. I think that's because, for example, the critique you could make of me back then was that I thought I wanted to follow a very specific path. I wanted to be a lawyer. I went to DC. I didn't really think about what I wanted from college. I just saw it very much as this pre-professional activity that you'll just do. I wasn't that involved in school or the actual extracurriculars, anything like that. And during that moment where the aforementioned sound happened, I could have thought to myself, hey, what was the process that led you to this state of unhappiness? Thought about that deeply, perception, obviously, and then help myself make better decisions. But I didn't quite do that. Instead, I just said, I don't like this track that I'm on, so let me search in vain for an all new track that's just as comfortable. So I just think of, and I'd love to hear what your definition of perception is, because when I just think of perception, I think of something that just would have been much more helpful than just assuming this is just about changing your specific circumstances, the whole grass is greener situation.
Well, we can, absolutely get into semantics with words, but at the end of the day, we can have someone who is really academic and goes into the roots of where words have come and how they've changed with culture. Ultimately, it's how that resonates within us, right? So for me, with this sense of perception, how I then slightly viewed things differently. Maybe if I was an individual who was on a certain track, I then perceived this wasn't right for me. What can I do to, I don't know, if I wanted to finish off the college track, what can I do to do that as least painfully as possible? And so I maybe was a little disillusioned, but I perceived things maybe with a little bit more antenna than before, because if I had been someone who was on a track and quite happy, I mean, were you quite happy to bounce along with the whole thing beforehand?
I'm not sure. I don't think I did. I don't think I was, but I think I thought that the process I was under was the right process, in the sense that everything for me was about, I have a weird dynamic, especially back then, where there's this whole idea that human beings really struggle to think about the future and plan ahead. I actually have the exact opposite of that problem. For me, it's actually really easy just to live in the future, think about the past, and just ignore the present. So rather than think, hey, am I happy in this moment? I would think, are these things I'm doing in this moment, are they leading me or giving me that thing that I want in the future? There's definitely a good version of that. That's called planning, that's strategy, that's thinking deeply.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I was on the wrong version, where I did not have an accurate perception of what that future should, or even actually wanted it to look like. So what I was actually doing is I was sacrificing the present for a future that wasn't actually the proper future, or the future that I should have been perceiving for myself.
So when you were having this experience, freshman year, was it, if you can think to the moment before, was it because you were looking forward as your MO and realized that's not where I want to go? Or you actually had a present moment experience that you were sitting in and realized this wasn't right for you?
And this is so interesting, because as I'm thinking about it, I think I was so actually dissatisfied in that moment.
In that moment.
I was that it broke through that future bias I had. So in the sense that, so for example, I went to a school called George Washington University.
I don't know. Has anyone heard of that?
Yeah, it's a great school. But when I chose it, I was thinking, I want to go to DC because I like politics and I want to go to law school, and this will give me those things. I wasn't asking myself, hey, what do you actually want from the college experience yourself? Do you want to live in a city where you go to college? The answer is actually no. I didn't enjoy that part of it. And I think that what ended up happening is, because I'm from Oregon and this is in DC, I stayed home for spring break because I was going to be back in Oregon in 2 months. This was in late March, around my birthday. And I just thought to myself, when I just had a bunch of alone time because my roommate had gone home, I just really not happy with it. And that basically just broke through the negative future process I had, where the satisfaction of thinking that I'm on this path, that I'm on this track, wasn't sufficient enough to overwhelm the fact that I wasn't enjoying myself.
So when we hear those phrases, pain is the touchstone, it's darkest before the dawn, there was a crack, there was an awakening that you had, a present moment awareness, almost like you said, the opposite. Other people are like not looking towards the future, but you had a present moment that cracked that open to really take a look at yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so I think there's a huge perception change being in that moment. And obviously now you're looking back on those moments, that feeling of what happened with your elevated, expanded consciousness of who you are now. Right. So we can go back and heal moments in the past as we expand our own individual consciousness. Because if we go back and get that sense feeling of, I can feel myself in that room, this is what happened, but now we are more enlightened, for lack of a better word, we can start to correct how, in some ways, we then continued a track of life, which led from A to Z, K, L, M, N, O, and X, right? And be more gentle on ourselves. Right.
I'm still learning the format. Can I ask you a question? I don't know how is this unidirectional? Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, ask away.
What do you mean by go back and heal the past? What is that?
Oh,
I don't.
good.
It's evocative. I'd like directionally what it sounds like you're saying, but what does that mean?
Yes. So let's take what just happened, because I think that's the best way to do it. I proposed and asked a question: was it a present moment awareness or a future moment? And you went inside, and I could see you, and those of us who are listening can probably hear it in the silence and the vibration of our voices, right? If we're on the phone with someone, we know something's wrong because we can hear it in the voice. The voice and sound never lies, right? So you had an experience then that you were going back to. You were just tracking back to that experience. And as a result, you answered a little bit of an awakening, and you'll hear it vocally. Everyone's going to go back and re-listen to Marshall do that. And either I'm a genius or I'm just full of right. And so that is what I mean by you can go back and look at, that was something that occurred, that I was present, aware, rather than always planning the future. And what will happen is you've actually started to shift your now future trajectory on your life, because what's going to happen after this conversation, naturally, because you're human, is you're going to look at maybe other things that happened that were a shift of your perception or present moment as a result. But that's a big one for you. And you're not alone. You're not alone with this, especially the dropout rate as we speak in this moment of first year students in universities. Actually, I just tell a big lie because COVID happened, so who knows? But before COVID, it was about 30% of people don't continue in that same university. Some of them drop out altogether. Some people switch majors because there's this big buildup in a system to get people to this freshman year. People go along with it. And there's such little education on basically EQ, if we want to put it that way. Who are you? Who are you? What are you? Where are you aligned with your people? And I've helped train a kid get into university, and a very successful one as well for what they want to do. But the whole path was, who is this person? What is their natural trajectory? And when we have that education in our lives, then seemingly studying French and physics at the same time seems to make no sense whatsoever, unless maybe you're Marie Curie descendant, that it can link into a forefrontal, cutting edge awakening for the whole world, because you have this experience here with this language and this physics, and you go on holiday to, I don't know, Mexico, and someone is a French speaker and you speak French and you translate, and it turns out they're doing this thing to a physics, and none of it makes any seemingly normal sense or linear sense whatsoever. But because one has been following their own vibration of who they are, it all comes together at the right moment, and the individual feels full, and they've been educated all their life that there's nothing wrong with seemingly random. And so much of what happens is, you know, the artistic kid, and I know I have an accent, so I mean as in art, you know, drawing, creative, that person. I have to clarify that for the listener. As the artistic child has trouble maybe with math or English, what do? They cut the arts out and double down on the academics to go so far, right? But in reality, they actually need more of the expansive mind training to bring that around. It simply hasn't switched in their brain. So when we also have, oh, he never went to university and he did all these amazing things, it's this big reward or carrot that is supposed to make everyone okay. And the reality is, since the beginning of time, we want to go back to the yogis. We can look at all this information, whether you're following a philosophy of Christ or Allah, or it all says the material matter will not fill the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It won't, right? And then we wonder, in our society, why are we having problems with this generation of millennials? Why are we having these problems with this next generation, whatever is happening, right? And the one thing we're not really educating long term is awakening of consciousness and one's own filling of their natural vibration within our social construct, right? We all want everyone to be able to write and read, communicate with other people.
Very important.
Right?
We don't just want that. We probably need that.
Right. We're not talking about, I'm going to just plop you in a field with the cows all day and that's your education. No, we have to be able to be in a global community, right? And this is where it really fails. Where do we start with? Where do we unite globally? Well, we always unite one-on-one, heart to heart. Movies are made of this stuff. Plays, Shakespearean plays, are made of this stuff. It is a universal through line throughout time of humanity. And yet we still haven't got it, have we?
Probably not. To put it mildly, probably not.
So all things being said, you're in this state of time, meaning, 2021 at your certain age, for all reasons, right? All reasons. And learning what you're learning, and so there are no mistakes in that way if we're moving forward with it. Oh, I wish I had this when I was at school. I mean, I went through a very traditional, even just regular schools in the UK were very traditional, put up your hand. I did not do well, as you can imagine. It's like, can I just do a speaking? Can I just speak my exam? Because I didn't know I had a form of dyslexia. No one was really talking about that much. And they thought I was difficult. At one point, a teacher said I wrote like I was, and we used the term foreigner. She said, you write like a foreigner. And yes, it was being derogatory. And apparently I would write by putting verbs in the wrong places. They wanted to know if I learned German first, which I hadn't. And all of these were.
Do you speak German?
Ein bisschen.
Okay. Yeah. Ich spreche ein bisschen too. So yeah.
Das ist alles, yeah. Although one of my favorite phrases, and you have to wait for part 2 because I got my favorite phrases. One of my favorite phrases is in German. I will just tell you, and it's completely random. So, and please do like and subscribe if you haven't and you just checked in. But this is, these crises that you're not alone. It's a phenomenon. People are writing about it, trying to deal with this academic system, even dealing with it in a way of saying, don't go. It's a waste of money. Don't go. That's not the solution at all. The solution is to not educate people. No, it's to shift the alignment of education. Right, that we are there to do what we need to do to be in the world, to make the world a better place, to commune with one another. And COVID has brought that up like gangbusters, right? We need to commune, right? But how do we then feel full and on the right track? Was that inner purpose or following that track? And if that is squelched as a child who couldn't learn the French or couldn't do the physics because it didn't make sense, then there's going to be so much need of self-discovery, right? And honestly, the planet doesn't have that much time, people. We need to get on it, right? Then we can work more globally together, right? And so what you bring up is a huge, I hate using that word now.
Which word?
H-U-G-E.
H-U-G-E.
That you follow the track, you have this change in your own awareness, right? So perception can be expanded awareness, but it's really on you. So, yes, how you look at it if one is an observer, but this is about asking you your questions and how we look at things. And then as we mature and we look back, oh yeah, I was full of myself, I had no idea, or oh gosh, did I really do that? Or wow, that was pretty brave of me, I'd never do that now. We look back and we can sort of remember, well, what if I got a little bit of that element of when I was more of a go-getter? I'm still the same person, the body's older. Can still intermingle it a little bit more. And that's where the idea of perception comes. So let's just go a wee bit more, because I like this very, very much. And you can have me talk for ages about education. And we can even do a second episode about it, because I helped raise an African-American female, who's not my daughter, and be the first person to go to a 4-year college out of her whole family, and the top program in the world. And yeah, that's like a mum boasting, but it's not. It was really about finding out who she was, and how can I, within my own resources, bring that out without losing the spirit of that child and help them be in the world. And I said, even if you do go and it's not what you do forever, that's not what this is really about. Tell your college counselor it is.
Someone has to be told that, so that within, I guess the whole point of this conversation is like within yourself, that's not what it's all about.
Right. That's not what it's all about. So you had that awakening, and what did you do? What did you switch over to? Did you switch majors?
Yeah, so I went back to Oregon, where I'm from, and it's I actually wanted to enlist in the military, because what I'm really getting at is I just tried to switch tracks, because that's just another different track. So rather than just say to myself, what is the process that leads you to select these different things? I just picked a different track because I was very comfortable, very straightforward. And I ended up not going through with it. And then I basically bummed about at my parents' house for another half of the year. And then I eventually went back on the college track and went to the University of Oregon, which I actually really enjoyed. But even during that process, there were just a lot of moments where I still hadn't solved the underlying issue. So there were some, I don't want to say superficial, but there were some semi-superficial structural changes that I'd made. Then be a lot happier at school. So you're in a college town. You're not you're not in a major city. The culture is a little different, West Coast versus East Coast. But the underlying issue that was driving an inability to focus in the present moment was still happening, and that I still was thinking about that future 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 10 years out. I was thinking about grad school programs versus thinking, are you excited about the class that you're going to take next quarter or next semester? So that's the underlying thing, that if we're thinking about the future healing concept, the past healing concept that we were talking about earlier, I'm really just looking back at that and just realizing that finding a way just to focus on what's immediately in front of you, pointing yourself in the right direction, aligning yourself the right way, but then focusing on the immediate step forward. I think that's a struggle that's not unique to me totally, but I don't think that's the struggle the average person has. So I'm just trying to think of right now, like what I'm thinking about is what are ways that I could think around that and conceptualize around that.
The next indicated action. If we are moved to take the next indicated action, seemingly doesn't always make sense, right? So we've got the intellect, the mind, right? Logic. And then we have in here, I don't know, I'm going to take the leap. I'm going to do this action, right? How much of this chatter in our mind is trying to tell us not to do this action, right? We got that out of the way and simply going to try it, which as through maturity, one tends to do more, or when one is young, very young, younger children abandon, they just do it. I don't know, I wanted to wear the princess, and then I wanted to wear the sneakers, and none of it matches, and everyone says, oh, aren't they darling? Aren't they darling? It's adorable. But you have an adult do that, we want to lock them up. right? And so we're adoring the free and abandonment, which is okay as a child. But if we can take that listening with us. So the next indicator action is actually a highly evolved spiritual act. Taking the next indicated step, not knowing where it's going to go, and then seeing what unfolds next. And that's where we're able to adapt more, right? Because things never work out the way you think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right. With it.
If we can go back to 2010, 2011, Marshall, I think that phrase, things don't work out the way you think, that's the most important thing that I'd impart to the past.
Right. And so you're doing it now. You're looking back to, what would you say back to Marshall then? Right. And who knows if Marshall would have even listened to you.
Honestly, probably not. And that's even useful too, because something I'm thinking a lot about when it comes to sorting through these different mental blocks or perception issues are, how do you balance reflection without trending into just self-flagellation or failing to acknowledge that you may have made mistakes in the past, but ultimately you ended up where you needed to end up. I mean, we started here. I get paid to podcast. That's incredible. This is way better than law school. All of this, seriously, working with you during the program, we did it on deck during this conversation. No, seriously, it's so much better. So how does one balance the self-healing with the reality that, let's say I'd just gone straight to U of O instead of going to GW, I probably would have ended up at law school. And I don't think I would have been happy that way. So that's just the part where maybe I'm overthinking things, but there's this very weird dynamic of, I think things kind of worked out the way they were supposed to work out, and come to terms with that, but still learning the lessons of that moment.
I have an answer. Meditation.
I hope this is your YouTube channel. So you're just like, honestly, I'm at a loss for words. You've made me question. So meditation, that's great.
Now, I will just give a quick caveat that when we say the word meditation, for those of you who've never tuned in, don't know who I am, why am I sounding so hyper? Aren't you supposed to be calm if you meditate? You've just been duped by what I call systemic meditationism. You've been sold a lie and you took it that you're supposed to look a certain way, be a certain person if you meditate. And without giving too much of a chat, the word meditation, it comes from a Latin word that the monks were the ones that had Latin. And what did? They focused and concentrated on the word of Christ, right? But we do know that before that 13th century, people were meditating. Right. And if you look more to the east, it's about going within and connecting within. And when we go within, we start to stabilize our nervous system from that fight or flight, that mind chatter. When we do that and we get into that more open relaxation state, we are able to listen. Now, listening doesn't mean a bolt of lightning. It might be a random thought we have 10 minutes after meditation. Take a left, not a right. Right. If we were training our children to do this from day one, there would have been, no, Dad, I'm not going there, I'm doing this, or no, Mum, or no, Aunt, Grandma, Grandpa, whatever it was, right? Meditation allows us to connect within to that, if you want to call us, we're all vibration, right? If we go down to atoms and quarks and leptoquarks and all that scientific quantum physics stuff, right? If we get inward, we can then hear and then respond to that. And I'm telling you, and this can be a little plug, those of you who've never heard of Vedic meditation stories, that's the ebook I have. It has real stories, mainly from underrepresented groups who would never learn meditation, who talk in their own words. There's no editing. People hate that I did that, but I wanted the vibration of their own voices to come through. Right? If they misspell for a reason. If they have incorrect punctuation, it's there for a reason, right? Hear their true voice of how They changed as a result of going inward and changing their vibration. The sale, you're going to get the $1 million, you're going to get the house, you're going to get the love of your life, you're going to get all these things. That's again getting that outside stuff to fill that gaping hole inside. Now, let me tell you, it's quite nice if you have a house and shelter and you don't have to be in fight or flight all your life, as unfortunately too many people in this world are, right? But that will express and show how simply it can make a difference in anyone's life. And actually right now, as this date, which is 2021, if you have Amazon Unlimited Kindle, which you can get with Prime, it's free to download, absolutely free. And any pages you open, it goes to the nonprofit. But this is an example of, you don't have to have this certain place in order to meditate. I can't meditate, or I can't don't like going to that yoga studio because they all look this way, or the yoga teacher's supposed to look this way, or even my upbringing, women, you can't be loud. You know what? We have amazing spiritual females who are funny and loud, and the majority of them originally would be revered within more indigenous peoples, right? They're revering them because we have predominantly, if you're talking about Westerners or colonialization, they slap that down. And now that's why there is this seemingly rise of the female. We just want an equality, right? Right? But we have to go to these other groups and see how it's always been revered. Even in Catholicism, Mary was always there. She wasn't knocked down. But that's where where meditation can really help. It can really help. And of course, I like what I do because it changed my life. But as long as there's something to connect within. Now, we also have, apart from the, beating oneself up, there's the opposite, right? There's the hipster that spends way too much time thinking about themselves. That gives meditation a bad name as well. Right? If we're here with an underlying purpose, with who we are, we feel whole with ourselves. The people who've had everything, given it up, what they've done is gone and helped others when they are whole with the vibration of who they are. And that's what made them feel good. That's what makes them feel full. That's really, people love little kids. Oh, isn't it endearing? It's just so free. And people love dogs, unconditional love. Right? And so the less beating of oneself up is where there is a correction in the mind of there are no mistakes. Or we diminish to the understanding of it's simply a mistake. Any moment I can amend it, and it's not an affront about me because I'm human. Right? Who do you like working with? When you work with people, do you like people who openly admit if they did a boo-boo, and where can we go from there? Or do you like to work with people who like to cover it up?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of set the question up. Well, I like people who admit they did the boo-boo.
Yes, that's right. Please, yes, right. Okay, I didn't really give much space for that because it's somewhat rhetorical.
I love people who screw up and just keep it hidden to the last possible second. Nothing works out.
Of course you do, because you're in politics. Let's get to the next part of this that we've linked in, which is, as you've moved through your life, what would you like to leave when your body drops? Or is it, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, as you're moving through with all these recordings you have now with your podcasts, is there some endeavor that you wish to pursue to help make the planet a better place than when you got here? No pressure.
No pressure. No, great questions. I like how you related this to the podcasting, because it means that I can give an answer which on the face of it may seem a little superficial, but actually means something, in that my podcast my podcasts are decently successful. So a lot of people listen and hear my voice every single day. And the more I've done this, the less interested I've been in opining. I'm not, at least in this stage of my life, I'm 29 years old. I'm not interested in being a pundit right now. What I'm really interested in is asking questions. because the privilege that I have, that you have, people who are performing with the medium of YouTube, with audio, podcasting, Clubhouse, whatever, is that we get to talk to really interesting people and ask questions of them. And if we're actually engaging in a process that's intellectual, that's authentic, that is interesting, then we have this really huge privilege, is also really helpful for our audience, of just serving as their voice. It's the whole idea of being a good host or moderator comes down to one's ability to be an advocate for the audience, to think outside of yourself. Hey, I might not think this, but someone who listens could think that. They don't get a chance to talk to someone in politics, tech, business, education, whatever. So it's my job as a host to internalize that. And so if we're talking about impact when I'm gone, what I hope, because once again, you set it up well, it's just true that by the time all this is done in terms of my life, there will be just thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of me just talking and doing things. I hope that all of that helped people think about the world differently, or I hope that what I did was useful, or that it was interesting, and that it just helped someone see something that was happening maybe to their family or in their personal life or at work or just in the news, and think, oh, I know how to think about this, or I maybe have an answer to this because Marshall engaged my thought process. Like, Marshall didn't give me an answer, because that's not my objective as a host, but Marshall gave me a really strong framework for thinking about something. And I hope to have done that with millions and millions of people. That's really what I think it comes down to.
And that's achieved by everyone subscribing and listening. So
what a good pivot. What a good pivot. What an excellent pivot to the call to action. It helps to subscribe to this channel. It helps to subscribe to my podcasts. Always pivot to subscription calls.
So he's actually also encouraging you to subscribe to this particular Cosmic Chat. And rather than a straight interview, it is a chat that we're having. His is more interview based. So Marshall, remind everyone what to do if they're sick and tired of this limey voice.
Yeah, so what you can do is, and no one is sick and tired of the limey voice, I guarantee it. I'm actually like super engaged right now, so I could speak for the audience there. I would say that you can go check out my stuff at the Realignment. I have a YouTube channel as well there too, and I also have a podcast. We'd love people to check out both. And I also have a separate podcast called The Deep End, where we talk about how the world's changing. We have an episode on higher education. We have an episode on government and technology, just a lot of really strong stuff that speaks to what I was just saying earlier, which is that these are much in the same way that I think this is such a fun experience for me, because you're helping me think about things. I'm almost thinking of this as a free therapy session to a certain degree, so thank you for that.
You're very welcome. You can make the donations. The link is in the description for everybody. Also here, look in the description, you'll see what Aware Meditation is. It's a non-profit. There you can make the donations, and you can continue to follow Marshall with everything he's talked about. He is going to continue therapy with me in part 2, but fast fire therapy for those of you who, it's time to get off the train right now. You've got to go and talk to those people you don't like. And speaking of make sure you make sure you comment and tell us, we want Marshall back. And with that, we're going to say toodaloo. Bye. Whoa, welcome back to part 2. Actually, that's 4, isn't it? So it should be like this. Do you do 2 like this, or 2 like this, or
2's like this?
Oh, like that. Like this. Okay, this. How do you fly in your dreams? Do you fly like Superman or like a bird?
Superman. Who flies like a bird? Someone has said they fly like a bird?
Yes. If you fly like a bird, there is no shame here. Please put it in a comment.
I sounded very judgmental when I said that. What kind of weird person flaps? You go forward like this.
Oh, I mean, I can understand like also something like an eagle. I'd be like, eagle.
Yeah, I get that.
That's fine. But I do have let's just say a relative who said, oh yeah, I fly like this. Like a little chickie. Like, I think you're getting off the ground. Anyway, we are back to part 2, asking fast fire random questions, which already started with one, which is not the norm. This is going to be fabulous. We are here with Marshall, who has his podcast at the Realignment. Again, the new one is
The Deep End.
The Deep End. He's on YouTube too. But let's get to the faster fire questions. And the first one I want to know is, have you ever seen repeating numbers?
I don't know what repeating numbers are, so no.
They're like numbers what after each other repeat. Like on a clock. Do you ever see like 333, 1111?
Oh, yeah. So like on a clock, totally. Yeah.
Do you see it a lot?
I don't think so. I feel like this would come to mind instantly if I did see it a lot. So I don't think so, no.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, people who see them, they know that they see them because it sort of comes out at them with it. Is there a food you wished that you liked, but you just don't?
No, that's really funny. I think when I was a kid, I'd probably say some sort of vegetable because my parents made me eat vegetables. But now I actually like, as I'm aging, I need to eat healthier. So vegetables are great because I feel better after I eat them. So that problem has solved itself. More Brussels sprouts.
Give a lot of wind, I find, Brussels sprouts. They make you gassy. They make me gassy.
I don't think they do not make me gassy. Not that I've ever thought about it, but upon reflection, I do not think they do.
I don't really understand why it's so popular now to basically serve up burnt Brussels sprouts.
It's like an appetizer. Yeah, the burnt. I like but I like it. I think it tastes good with some like oil, and it's burnt, and then you eat it before your main meal. I think it's great.
Yeah, it tastes fine. I was always, told, in home ec, don't burn the food. And now it's considered a delicacy, burning it. It's not char grilled. It's outright burnt, isn't it? All right. Where in the world have you not visited yet, but you'd like to?
I have not. I haven't been to Latin America. I've been to Central America. I've been to Mexico, but I've never been to South America.
So maybe little Machu Picchu is in the car.
Yeah, Chile, Argentina, like something like that.
Any particular festival or event that you're attracted to go to?
No, it's just that I used to be fluent in Spanish, so I've always just had an attraction to that part of the world. And just for whatever reason, I've never actually been past. And I went to Cancun in Mexico, so it doesn't even count. I did not leave basically the American tourist zone. So would love to see any of Central or South America.
Brilliant. And all right, here we go. What is your favorite phrase, or what are some of your favorite phrases? And speaking of Spanish, I don't know if you have any in Spanish. It doesn't have to be English.
In Spanish, I'm glad you pivoted to Spanish. I love "qué tal," like "what's up," because it, for whatever reason, it just feels so casual. It just feels, and "what's up" is obviously casual, but just the way I've just internalized it has always been "qué tal." It's like, hey, what's up? And it's just very, very just relaxing and very just easy. So it's always weirdly resonated with me.
Yes, again, it's that sound feeling, isn't it? That vibration. It feels good within. Yes. For those of you who actually remembered part 1, my phrase that I just got reminded the other week was the German phrase, completely random, Spiegelei mit Bratkartoffeln. I'm going to pronounce that wrong. Spiegelei mit Bratkartoffeln, I think, which is basically
play with
fried eggs and chips, I think.
Never mind.
And wow. It's not what it was. It was because I had a cat that was called Smudge as a child. And we used to call her Spiegelei because, I don't know, I was learning German. And so she responded to it. So I think somehow, again, equally wonderfully random. But having said that, someone might be listening to that. And because I've said that phrase, might be reminded of someone who wants to donate to Aware Meditation. So you know what? Everything and all things work well. But Spiegelei mit Bratkartoffeln, that was a phrase that I used to say as a teenager. It just would feel good in my mouth. It was completely random. It's probably why I liked it. Want you to know I hated fried eggs as a child. So it's not that at all. But I don't know why. I used to call my cat Spiegelei mit Bratkartoffeln, and she'd come running. So something to do with my cat. Anywho, next one, nicknames. Without arising any PTSD at all. Did you have any nicknames as a kid?
People shorten my name to Marsh instead of Marshall, so just Marsh. And it's I like it a lot, actually. It's I've never ever told people to call me Marsh, but at a certain point people just do it, and I've always liked it.
Endearing. You find it endearing?
Yeah, it's endearing. That's a good word.
Was there anything that you were given you were like, no?
No, I mean my no, just because actually no, it was a terrible nickname, horrible nickname. I have had bad posture. So in 4th grade, some kids called me Bubble Butt, and Bubble Butt was terrible. It's really bad. Luckily, that's kind of in fashion now, so everything's like come full circle. But in the mid 2000s, it was devastating and disastrous. So
did
yeah,
you have a bubble butt?
I did, and I do, and it's really funny because it literally just like doesn't matter, but it's a very 4th grade devastating, very devastating one.
All right, let's send some love out to the bubble butt here. You know, we can just burst that bubble and just call him Marsh instead. Now, did you ever get revenge on the people who called you bubble butt with a nickname back to them, even if you said it in your head?
No, no revenge, nothing like that. As I look off wistfully and you grow concerned. No, nothing like that. I wasn't that witty. The thing is, I'm decently witty now, but I wasn't witty as a 4th grader. So revenge would have involved something witty. Nothing came to mind.
Just like, how did you cope with that inside? Like, did you feel like your stomach would churn when they would say it?
Yeah, I just think I felt bad. It just stunk. It wasn't great, and that's the thing, which is that when you're in 4th grade or any young age, there's not really much you can do about it. So you basically just put up, and it was a put up situation.
Right. Yes. Oh, I feel you there. All right. Well, we have had a delightful time with Marshall going in deep, which is not the name of his podcast, but just there's so much leeway in jokes with that if you named it that. So it's not called that, but we will hope to have him back. Please pop in the chat if you got thumbs up for Marshall. If you supported us, hey, if you subscribed during this time, just say, hey, I subscribed, and we want to give you a shout back for your love. And we'd like to thank you for being here. Much love, everyone, and looking forward to the next one. Yay!